Hello gamers, welcome back. By the time you're seeing this, well, guess what? It should be 3 days into the expansion because I'm ridiculously slow at editing. Damn. But this is my day 1 list of Belial. A new card, legendary abyss that got it. What the hell am I saying? A new legendary abyss that got black. The new card, legendary that got the new Abyss legendary that Abyss got for Skybound Dragon, Belial, Archangel of Cunning. He is our new win condition on the block and he does 20 damage to the enemy leader. Oh my god, what a strong effect. What is the drawback? Well, you had to play him on turn 15 if you want to get this effect. But hey, you can get it done earlier if you evolve a follower with him in hand, and this is what this entire deck is made to do. It is a evolve focus Abyss deck, I suppose, where you play basically all the new evolve support in the new set: Vern, Almeida, Sadiel, Grangida, Nahan, as well as Vidal, all of it to fuel Belial. We also have an alternative win condition here: Sandy, Sandalphon, Primarch's successor, since, well, sometimes Belial decides to go sleep sleep at the bottom of your deck and he never shows up. In which case, Sandalphon will at least show up if you evolve 6 times, and it's better to draw him so you can actually start sky boosting him a lot earlier since he's also a super skybound. But you can actually play this deck at like a mid-range in case you don't draw Belial. But speaking about Belial, we totally ignore his other fanfare, which is a deal 10 to all other followers. Really good for board clearing, so I feel like this may see play even outside of this sort of specific list that wants to get his crest to just generally wipe out boards that you really don't want to deal with. But let's talk about some of the other filler cards that I added into the deck that you might consider running in this upcoming set. Reapers, Death Slash, as well as Screaming and Loading are both removal tools that can help you deal with some very annoying followers. Speaking of which, both of them are legendaries from this set: Wilnas as well as Vera. You ideally want to have hard removal for these two guys, otherwise you are taking a lot of damage. Some other cards that I added in that I think combo really well with Nahan, specifically Mino, Gassy Sorbet, Wind Servants, all to give you either skeletons or 1/1 bats with Drain, all of which, so the skeletons can be played alongside the hunt to be evolved really easily for a lot of stats, and the bats can also be evolved through likes of the hunt as well as Vidal for not only 3 damage in a rush follower, is also 3 damage of healing which you get from the drain. Basically just overall increasing the survivability of your deck, which is also why Guild List is here. But that's basically it for the deck. Do I foresee this deck being anything of a meta contender? No, I think it's still too slow. Belial's effect realistically comes down on turn 9, but ideally you want it on turn 7. Which is never happening, and if it happens to you too often, buy a lottery ticket. And if you somehow manage to not, well, sky boost him, evolve followers while he is in hand enough, and you have to somehow drop him on turn 15 and wait 4 turns for his crest, at which decking out your opponent becomes a more viable win condition than that. Or, well, Sandy, that's why he's here. I just think there are other decks that are faster. So have fun with this sort of list while you still can, before it gets completely phased out by the end of this week. So yes, that's enough about me rambling on about this deck. If you're new to the channel, leave a like, leave a subscribe for future Shadowverse content, and with that out of the way, shameless plug, and let's move on straight on to the gameplay. We are starting off this set strong with a pretty good start. The game is not entirely dead like I thought it was gonna be, but that's more of a first week thing rather than anything, if you were to ask me. Like, seriously, the first week of a few weeks of a set drop is always the best, because that's when people are experimenting with new decks. And if you're not experimenting with new decks, what are you doing with your life? Seriously, come on, have some fun, please. But it was also the time when meme and jank decks like what I would consider Belial to be at its prime, because all decks are slow, people are figuring out what they are doing, and all in all general, we can actually have fun for once in Shadowverse. Surprising, right? But yes, as you can see, our opener is really good. Mino as well as Rotting Zombie plus Skeleton drop. It's pretty decent, and we're up against Ram Dragon with their brand new shiny Ram card, Zoe. And they already ran basically like what? Twice this or so fast. So I don't think Dragon, well, any new type of Dragon will be in the meta except for Jerry Cocytus regardless anyways. I don't think this variant is a Jerry Cocytus. I think he's actually trying out something new. Thank goodness. But you can see how well this deck tends to like control the middle game, especially the free auto evolves. And like generally just Gilner List as well as Screaming and Loading, all of these are cards which control really well. And just with the overall evolves as well, there was also a chance that they might be playing Wilness, which in which case you might be. I'm not actually playing this optimally. Like, full disclaimer, I don't claim to play this optimally. I'm not particularly that good of a player unless you give me like 6 years to learn a deck. But the Screaming and Loading there could have been very well safe for a Wilness that might be calming down. If they throw down a Forte, there's not much you can do, as we are a very evolved focused removal list. So if Intimidate as well as Ambush are keywords that we really struggle with, which is why I really think that Screaming and Loading is like a must run going forward, because otherwise how are you supposed to deal with followers like this? They are not running any of those lists though. It does look like they are running like a good old Jerry Cocytus, like not gonna lie. Since they're just playing cards, but they're also just evolving, which I believe a Sandy is gonna invoke here very soon. Well, not this turn because I'm playing Grind and Jita. Just drawing cards, which this deck does struggle with a little bit. Luckily for us, we did draw Belial early, so I guess he can be kind of a reliable win condition. I'm not sure what his charge is at right now because I'm recording this voiceover after I recorded the games and I can click into it. So hopefully either I play this turn. Yes, I did play this turn. It's at 6. So realistically 9 is amazing. Can I also just quickly talk about Belial's voice line? Like, brother? Really, bro? These are some of the most sus voice lines I have ever heard, and I'm sure some of you gooners out there are into this thing. You are the target audience, not me, I swear. But with this here, our opponent got a new card here, Mac, Girl Next Door. She did a super evolve, she didn't actually get a ward though. I mean, she is still a super evolve follower, and super evolve followers are actually surprisingly scary now that I think about it. Look, staring this many down at once, they do actually have an emotional effect on you. But we can actually clear this really well because surprise they don't actually have Intimidate. And I did decide to use Sandalphon here as a clear instead of pushing damage. And if she didn't clear, I would have been pretty annoyed. Second Zoe dropped it one turn earlier, probably to play around another Belial. But I don't have another Belial, so technically that was a wasted Zoe. But if they have a second Zoe, they will win. It just really gets countered easily by effects like this, where they just totally prevent damage from going face. And yeah, as you can tell, they try to go for like a double Sandalphon play, but we have too much followers on board. They didn't clear anything. They are on 1 hit points. They are basically cooked beyond belief. And even after all that's over, they conceded and don't let me get my Belial Crest effect anyways. I don't think I actually have a Belial Crest effect go off because all my opponents just concede the previous turn, but what can you do? Next up is Abyss. This one is an interesting game because, well, I think it's mirror actually. It's probably a mirror matchup. And it's interesting because I vividly remember this as one of those games where I won despite not drawing Belial. That's like why I major reason why I don't think this deck will be particularly meta warping. well, no, people will have to play around it for sure, for certain, but like it's not meta warping because there are decks that are just faster. Like off the top of my head, like set 1 Roach is already faster than this. OTK is on turn 9. If you don't set up wards, and if you notice this deck has 0 wards, I mean, look, even if you set up wards against Roach, right, they still go through it anyway, so it's not much you can do against that sort of deck, especially if they become more prevalent. Also Rune also just straight up kills you, 20 health. No, there's no argument there. But right, because we don't have Belial in hand. I mean, it's still early, we could still draw him, but at this point just give up hope, just pretend he doesn't exist and start playing this game like as though a mid-range deck would. And that is what I did. Start playing as though we are playing mid-range. We are technically behind if you are trying to play mid-range though. Here people usually play Gravy. Sharon would have been a good play here. I didn't add Sharon into my particular list because I was experimenting, and I was thinking that I probably don't need her. They did coin the Hunt. That wasn't particularly the right play in my opinion, because that was like so little value you got out of that card when you could have really gotten more. Here I did misplay a little because I could have traded in the other order, Skeleton into the Hunt, and then the Almeida into the Bat, which would have netted me 1 extra follower, but I wasn't particularly thinking. But at least my opponent also misplayed too, forgetting to evolve, making this board significantly easier to deal with, which allows me to use the Hunt to board wipe instead of having to commit a Fadal, which might be what I would do instead if they didn't have made this play. But as you can see, Belial nowhere inside. If you were to draw Belial at this rate, right, you're not winning the game ever. Somehow they decided to leave 6 damage worth of stats on the board, which is generally a big mistake, considering that we do in fact run Sandy in this deck. It is actually an alternate win condition, and I did draw it. Use this one to draw another follower and set up with another rotting zombie. Very reminiscent of a mid-range board, doesn't it? They did decide to use a Belial to clear though, which is funny. Really funny. Fadal would have been a better option here generally, but they did play Belial, which I have no idea what their Skybound gauge is at, so don't ask. And we did use this opportunity to, I won't say clear, to just like set up evolve, get more cards, play more cards, general stuff. Super evolve Haru Urara for more draw. Not really, it's just to push more damage. There's not much you can do with this hand, genuinely. There's really not much you can do. But they do have Gin Yuzu. That is mildly scary. I don't run in this list because I find it a bit too much of a one-trick pony. You use it as removal and heal. It might be good in certain matchups, like not gonna lie. Just in this one where we go for OTKs, especially against my deck, usually it wouldn't matter, but as now I'm actually relying on pure damage to win instead of Belial, it actually does kind of matter. Which is also why like 4 play point cards are so really important for this sort of list. Well, especially want to pair alongside Sandalphon at the very least, so you can actually hit face a lot more of the time. But with this we have Lethal, poke with the Bat, trade with the other one, pay damage, and Sandalphon closes out the game without even relying on Belial in the first place, because what, I'm gonna wait another 4 turns while his Belial clearly before mine? Nah, no, not happening. But last but not least, we have a game against Haven. Apparently, most people think this is going to be a top meta contender for this deck. I kind of disagree. I don't think Haven has enough of a win condition, quote unquote, other than build a big board. And we all know how well build a big board tends to work in today's current meta game. But we can't do much about that. I actually had to re-record this game because I realized I never actually have a game where I genuinely, solidly, convincingly won with Belial's Crest. And so I had to play another one, find it again. So this is why I'm on a vastly different group rating. than the previous two. Those previous two were recorded early on in Topaz. This one was when I was in Sapphire going to Diamond. But as you can see, Screaming and Loading, really strong card. Oh, just try to run it. I didn't actually play Grand Jida here because I don't want to play into Blinding Faith or Salifa, God forbid. Haven forbid, and they do have it, so don't overcommit into Haven bots, especially when you know they run bot clears. You need your resources. We did draw Belial early this time, which is like the really this sort of deck really relies you to draw Belial in your first 4 turns. Otherwise, he's just gonna come down way too late for you to get his crest. And I attribute most of my success really to drawing Belial early. Otherwise, like, I don't think I can outrace Haven even if they are like the slowest then known to man. We use Belial List as well as Screaming Loading combo to remove or clear out the bot here. This is probably going to lead into an Ether bot, which is really tanky, but it's generally fine to deal with provided they don't go into a bot buff card like Ether, like John. Like Ether herself, right, I won't believe to be particularly that much of a threat. I think she's just a card. She builds a build bot. She does what she does really well. But like where it gets annoying, right, or deadly is when they have a follow-up that can buff all followers that remains on the field, like John, which just turns any leftover followers into genuine threats. And I was also forced to play my one of my Belials here to just wipe out the board. I could have answered it another way, but Belial was just simply my best option, so that's why I did that. Vern as well, very efficient card once you unlock Super Evolve, being 2 play point for 4 damage. Like, that's really efficient. And also Grand Jida dealing 10 for 4. All of these are efficient cards, but because we are using Ground for the damage, we're not actually getting the draw, unfortunately. And they go into another Ether, which is damn. Not surprised. This is what Haven at after all, but since, as you can see, they poses no threat at all whatsoever. I mean, unless you leave up the followers, of course, but which I didn't. Belial was on it, so that's why I evolved a skeleton to get him up to 9 and then play immediately just to get the crest. The sooner you get crest against Heaven, the better it is for you. And now they are on a timer. Unless they run Temple of Repose, there's nothing they can do. We have a solid advantage here. They don't have burst unless they run Sandalphon. But Haven, especially running Sandalphon, is really slow unless they already have him in hand. But looking at his hand size, I'm willing to bet that is not the case. Belial here is a really good bot control tool. Like you can see here, just a serious bot advantage. Clears, nerfs or opponent followers, and it can't even be cleared by Ether, which is why I think if you're playing Ward / Crest Haven, you need to start running cards like Merylwyn to help supplement your damage, and also Unholy Vessel if you need to just reset the board so you're not too far behind. But here they are really tight on time now. They have to play their cards, try to stick a board, which I don't really care. We can nerf their board as many times as you want, and just generally I can even leave Galleon up because she doesn't attack. So the best she do is evolve another follower end of their turn and be big stats. But since we don't need to go through that ward regardless anyways, it doesn't really affect us. And finally, they actually got a bot that sticks. Like, Vera is really annoying to deal with in my current hand. Like, Fadal could theoretically clear, but I needed evolve point for it, so super evolve actually, but I don't have it, so there's nothing much I could do. But we just had to survive for 1 turn, and we can, so they concede. And that's basically it for the deck. Hope you enjoyed. Let me just give you some alternative cards that you could probably add in if you really want to try alternative versions of this deck. Some cards that I've seen people running is you could run the mid-range version without Belial, and I think it could probably work. Belial honestly is a quite inconsistent of a win condition, which is once again why I don't think he will be a top meta contender, but that he will still be pretty reliable to run right now where everyone's still trying out decks for some fun wins. Not like they'll ever let you get the animation off. And other cards such as Sharon to fill out your turn 5 plays. I don't have any turn 5s here. Sharon would be a good choice. And also, let's see. That's about it. Like, I won't say my list is optimized, but I think my list is pretty solid as of now. That's not. Then again, it is day one, so we'll see how this deck evolves as the meta goes around. And yes, if you're new to the channel, leave a like, leave a subscribe once again, and I'll catch you in another video. Catch you next time.